Another common theory is that experimental government aircraft are responsible for the Phoenix Lights. Supporters of this theory believe that a very large silent surveillance blimp, or top-secret aircraft, flew over Arizona and that diversionary flares were dropped by the military in an attempt to divert the attention of whoever was out on that clear evening gazing at Hale-Bopp Comet. When considering this implausible theory, one must also consider many obvious questions. If this was indeed a top-secret military blimp, why would they fly it at a dangerously low altitude, right over a major city in full public view, endangering millions of citizens on the ground and in the air, rather than fly a course somewhere over the thousands of square miles of uninhabited desert surrounding Phoenix? If they flew it over the desert, they wouldn't have to bother with diversionary flares or worry about the risk of crashing into a populated area.
I don't think it was the military doing this. It doesn't pass the common sense test. Why would you create a huge, slow-flying craft that's radar stealthy and then go out and fly it over a population center with all the lights on to validate that it can be seen by the naked eye? Doesn't make any sense.
Another point here is that a mile-wide blimp would literally collapse under its own weight. Even if the military could build such an enormous blimp, why would they? Sure would make an easy target in enemy territory. And imagine how much gas it would take to fill one up. And why would they continue to deny its existence? There's nothing top secret about blimps or their use, certainly not compared to stealth technology and other defense projects that are already in the public domain. The bottom line to all this is, if it was an aircraft that flew over Phoenix in 1997, top secret or not, the public would have known about it a long time ago. Every major airport in the country that has scheduled airline service is surrounded by Class B airspace, a protective zone that extends 30 miles out from the center of the airport. No aircraft, including military aircraft, can enter Class B airspace without communication and clearance from the air traffic controller. Upon entering, pilots are issued transponder codes and are safely vectored to and from the many airports that are within their busy airspace. Pilots are closely monitored by ATC at all times to avoid mid-air collisions. Whatever flew over Phoenix on March 13th severely violated Class B airspace when it entered without communication and ATC clearance, violated minimum safe altitude requirements, and flew right across the final approach course of Sky Harbor Airport, one of the busiest airports in the country. It also went undetected by radar, which completely kills the blimp idea and all other conventional aircraft for that matter. Skeptics still continue to throw out ridiculous theories, everything from swamp gas to weather balloons, but none of these theories stand up to scientific scrutiny. The most common theory and the official explanation issued by the local Phoenix military is that the Phoenix Lights were military flares dropped by the Maryland Air National Guard over the Barry Goldwater Range southwest of Phoenix.
That was just ridiculous. Flares go down, they don't float across the sky.
Being in the military, I've launched those flares, and they were not flares. Because flares fall, up and down. They don't fall. Even in the wind, they don't maintain that altitude.
Their flare drop does not coincide with the mass sighting witnessed by approximately 10,000 people across the state of Arizona and in locations all over Phoenix earlier that evening.
These lights up here represent aircraft flares. If you notice, they're not in any straight line. They vary in distance between each other. And if you look at the top, you can see the smoke. As the flare falls, it leaves a trail of smoke above it from the burning magnesium in the flare.
Flares are moving relative to each other. They're moving at different speeds. The Phoenix Lights are rock steady.
Many experts agree that if the Air National Guard dropped any flares at all on the evening of March 13th, it was solely for the purpose of creating a smokescreen to confuse the facts, and that many reported sightings were of the flare drop, which the military could later explain away.
It is a ready explanation for what everybody saw. And that makes it easy for the public to just seize on that and, oh, well, what they saw was flares. Explains everything, end of Phoenix Lights.
The flare theory is a nice, convenient way to explain glowing lights in the sky, and seems like the most logical explanation for the Phoenix Lights until you consider all the reasons why the theory doesn't work. First, consider the fact that the Barry Goldwater Range has been in continuous operation since 1941, and countless flares have been dropped over the range for several decades. Wouldn't you think that people in Phoenix would be used to seeing them? What would prompt thousands of people to suddenly call into local newspapers, police stations, news stations, radio stations, and Luke Air Force Base, all on the same night and all around the same time? It's plainly obvious that many people saw something very strange, not something as routine as a flare drop, and felt compelled to report it and find out what it was. The biggest hole in the flare theory is that it completely contradicts thousands of eyewitness testimonies consistently describing a massive V-shaped craft flying slower than the stall speed of a small plane, totally silent and very low to the ground. Some witnesses were directly underneath as the craft flew over. According to witness accounts, at least one large V-shaped craft, and possibly other triangular craft, flew across the entire state of Arizona, starting from the small town of Paulden all the way down to Phoenix and Tucson. Flares don't travel hundreds of miles, and witnesses in southern and northern Arizona couldn't possibly see flares over the Berry Goldwater Range. Another valid argument against the flare theory is that these mysterious orbs are commonly seen over populated areas of Phoenix and the Gila Bend Indian Reservation.
Nobody would ever drop those flares over a populated area. They're cylinders that are about 3 feet tall, 10 inches wide, and they are intense magnesium. And they sometimes hit the ground, they're still burning, so they'd start fires.
Dropping flares, or any objects for that matter, over populated areas and Indian reservations is a serious FAA violation and prohibited due to possible injury to civilians, damage to property, and ground fires.